Welcome to the Potter Discussion.
Welcome back to the Potter Discussion. This is episode 96, and on today's episode, we will be breaking down the character of Draco Malfoy. Let's do this. Episode 96. We're getting close to the magical number 100. And yeah, this is a very, very exciting day. Not only because we're getting close to 100, but also because this is the first episode after we celebrated the 1-year anniversary of the Potter Discussion. That is right. September 8th was the first day that I logged on to my podcast and I uploaded my first couple of episodes. They weren't very good, but they were a start, and you all know that we need a start to finish. And I'm very happy with how far I've come since then. I think I've done a pretty good job keeping up the work, the schedule, the episodes. So if you've been listening the whole time for this whole year, I want to say a huge thank you. It's still like crazy. It feels like it's only been a couple weeks since I've done this, but it has been 1 year and a couple days. So it's just crazy that this long I've been going for this long on this. And I was kind of thinking, it's a good COVID project, just, for fun, but it's really turned into something that I really enjoy doing and I intend to keep up very far future. So thank you all for sticking with me. If you're a new listener, welcome. I hope you stay for another year. If you have been listening for this whole year, again, thank you so much. Your support has really been why I have been managing to continue this. But today I have yet again another series for you. I'm trying to start a bunch of series, have a good stream of content coming in from all different angles. And this one is called Breakdown, where we discuss one character every episode of Breakdown, and we, break down their character, see what's inside. And this week's breakdown is probably one of the most discussed out of everyone, except for maybe like one or two people. So today we are talking about Draco Malfoy. His middle name is actually Lucius, which is kind of weird, but Draco Lucius Malfoy is who we are talking about today. He has so many different layers, so much inner conflict. He's a very interesting character, and he will be a very interesting topic to discuss. Let's do it. However, before we get into today's episode, I will remind you that the two links in the show notes below are still active. The SpeakPipe page link and the Google form link. If you have any questions, comments, topics, quizmaster questions, or jokes, I am accepting anything you want to tell me, and I absolutely love what you have to say. And yeah, my email is thepotterdiscussion@gmail.com. That is thepotterdiscussion@gmail.com for any similar things that you would like to say to me and you don't want to use the SpeakPipe page link or the Google form link. So yeah, that's that. Let's get into this episode. Draco Lucius Malfoy, the person we will be discussing today. He's a very interesting person with a lot of, little pieces of information, a lot of inner conflict, as I've mentioned, and he has so many different layers that it will be very interesting to pick his character apart and see who is with it. But before we get into the juicy stuff, I will give you a quick timeline and intro into his character, just so we're all on the same page. So, Draco starts at Hogwarts, and the first time we meet him is on that staircase, at least in the movies. It's, we meet on that staircase where he goes up to Harry, and he's like, Harry Potter's come to school, asserting his dominance as the school bully. So he comes over there, Harry says, nope, sorry, bro, I'm not gonna accept your hand that is stuck out to me so kindly. And then Draco becomes resentful of Harry, and they become bitter rivals. And the first movie goes on without much interference from Draco. Then comes the second movie where he is very much against, and their rivalry only grows in the years following. So in the 5th, 6th, 7th books, that's really where Draco starts to become, a big character. Because in the 6th book, he is joined with Voldemort, and he is tasked with killing Dumbledore. And this is really where his story starts to take shape, because we see in the 6th book and 6th movie that he is struggling with himself, and he doesn't know what to do, even with the orders, with the commands, whatever you want to call it, that he has been given. And he knows that if he doesn't complete, Voldemort will kill him. But he doesn't want to kill Dumbledore. He just wants to have a happy life with his family. And by happy, I mean, Voldemort-free life. And that's kind of what the whole Malfoy family wants, because they just joined with Voldemort because they saw him as the most powerful. But when they saw, when the last movie and book, when they saw what Voldemort was doing, what he was planning, they realized that they were on the wrong side, and that side was Voldemort. So they didn't, they left. Of course, they didn't join the good side, but they just wanted to get away because they knew that if they can keep their family intact, that would be a win. So they left, and we didn't see them ever again. So that's a quick timeline. I brushed over quite a bit of things, but they aren't very important for what we're going to be talking about today. But what is important is the 6th book. That's really kind of the central focus of his trauma, of what he is, kind of struggling with. So that is something we're going to be coming back to quite a bit. So yeah, let's just, start off with a very small thing, and we can work our way up to the rather large and earth-shattering details. The first item on my list is kind of what Draco is struggling with, what he's juggling at one time. So Draco wants to please his father, please his friends, impress Voldemort, bully Harry, and fit in life in between. Now, you didn't have to hear it from me to know that Draco has way too much going on, and not just one thing too many, he has about 5 things too many. He's just trying to do so much at once to please so many different people that there's no way he is gonna please himself in the end. So let's start off with his father. So that's really, the root of Draco's, just his whole demeanor. He really wants to, fit in with his family. He wants to make a name for himself with Voldemort. And the way to do that is to join through his father. Lucius can go to Voldemort and say, "Hello, kind master. Would you give my son a chance to, do something small like kill Dumbledore?" So when Voldemort let Draco in, then Lucius would look good, bring in someone else from the cause. But Lucius never stopped to think that maybe Draco didn't want to join. But I'm sure that even if Lucius knew that was what Draco was thinking, I doubt he would have stopped, because Lucius Malfoy is not the caring father type. Draco just wants to fit in with his family, and he was born with the wrong people. He doesn't want to fight in a war. He doesn't want to join with an evil person. He just wants to live his life with his family. But is that what Lucius wants? No. And unfortunately, Draco has no say in the matter if Lucius is involved too, because Lucius will claim that he knows best in just giving himself a boost in popularity, in the eyes of Fudge, in the eyes of Voldemort, and Lucius is really the only person who benefits here, because even Voldemort wouldn't benefit very much, just because, besides getting the Death Eaters into the castle, but Draco didn't do what he was supposed to. He didn't kill Dumbledore, but that's because he didn't want to. He didn't want to in the first place, and the only reason he even tried was because he was going to be killed if he didn't. So Draco never really wanted to join with the Death Eaters and, ravage Hogwarts and create mishap and just be this overall mean person. And the only reason he started to bully, because that was the only place he could really feel like he was in control, because with his father, there's no way that he could have overrid his father in anything. And even in his first year, Draco knew that. So despite everything that he has been through, Draco still does not have a say in what happens to him, even though it is him that the happening is happening. I definitely use proper grammar there, and you are going to not say anything about that. But the bottom line here is, folks, that Lucius is really taking Draco's life out of his hands and is really twisting it into something that Lucius can use to his own benefit with Voldemort, again with with Fudge, and with anyone else that Lucius needs to get in with to manipulate the law, the world, justice to his own personal benefit. On a similar note for this next subject, I just want to say that at first, I thought Draco was trying to only impress his father. So, as mentioned before, Draco is very much about, trying to make sure that he is seen with good eyes, or the right eyes rather, with everyone. He wants Harry to fear him. He wants the teachers to respect him. He wants his father to like him. He wants Voldemort to, give him better jobs, or that at least that's what we think at the beginning. And he just wants everyone to be, his friend or his enemy. He doesn't want to get close to anyone, but he doesn't want to get too far away, if that makes sense. But at the beginning of the story, I thought he was just trying to please and impress his father. The Malfoy family is very much, like the Gaunts. They are, of course, descendants of Slytherin or something like that. They're pure blood. They believe that everyone else just doesn't matter. They aren't real people if they aren't pure blood. They're just, like a squirrel or a dog. They exist and they might be, fun to have or see, but they don't serve any real purpose. Of course, that's completely untrue, but the Lucius Malfoy and Draco Malfoy, and maybe not so much, but, the Malfoy family in general, they see the Muggleborns and the Half-Bloods and Muggles as completely unworthy of a wand, of the title of witch or wizard. So that's kind of where their family is different from many other families, like the Weasleys or something like that. I could also imagine they aren't very accepting of other kinds of people. Like someone not like from really far away, they might see as not like them, and in addition, like a Muggle-born or a Half-Blood or a Muggle, that they maybe not like they are only accustomed to them, and if they see someone else that's not them from, Europe, they're gonna think that they are someone who is alien, who's other to them. And that's also similar with the way that they see their own family, especially Lucius. He's kind of the the ruler of the family, just because everyone else just doesn't want to cross him because they're afraid of what what Lucius might do to them, rather. So they can't even step out of line when it comes to everyday matters, which seems like something that is completely ridiculous, but Lucius has to have order. And Draco is trying to appease his father by, applying himself to that order just so thoroughly, too much. And he can't give 100% to him of himself to 5 or 6 different things at once. So impressing his father was really the only thing that he could manage in the beginning books, because there's nothing else on his plate and there's nothing else that he actually had to do. But in the later books, maybe starting with book 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, he really was, starting to have more things in his life, and he was dealing with much more difficult situations and having to face more of his fears and his father. So he had to find a way that made it look like he was doing the right thing by his father and by everyone else. And that's just impossible. You can't make everyone happy. That's just not how it works. But Draco didn't know that. So he wasn't exactly privy to the fact that you can't be, multiple different people. You can't just be switching between personalities as one person. And it's very difficult to, do the things that Draco did. But Draco insisted that that was the best way. That if he managed to do the things that his father wanted to do the things that Voldemort wanted to do, bully Harry, still stay in school, get a good education and kind of make a good name for himself with his friends, it seems like he needed to merge it all down into something, and he pretty much just decided that would be impressing the population. But that just all led back to his father, that his father was the only reason that he could have survived, because if he could impress his father and I guess by extension Voldemort, then he might be able to make a name for himself in just an arena in general. Maybe that was not the arena that he wanted to be in, but a fight is a fight, and he wanted to. So that is pretty much what this segment was about. So I hope that this kind of is a good baseline for the future topics we'll be discussing today. And it is very true that this is a big part of Draco's life and a big part of his character. At number 4, we have the Malfoy's unique situation with switching from the dark side and trying to get in with Fudge. So this was a big part of 4th and 5th books. I'm actually reading the Order of the Phoenix right now, and that's how I kind of came up with this point. But the Lucius, I always call them the Lucius Malfoys, just because, that's just how I think. So the Malfoys, especially Lucius and, Narcissa and Draco, wow, I'm really not speaking right today. The Malfoy family they go to the dark side and then they switch back when Voldemort falls, and then they have to find a way to make sure that they aren't the ones with their dirty hand. It's like Harry trying to clean off the mud on his hands inside of his pockets in the Prisoner of Azkaban. They are very, Weasley, even more Weasley than the Weasleys, which is something that they are definitely never going to admit at all, just because, Malfoy's Draco's favorite thing to say is like, hello, Harry Potty and Ron Weasel, that's like his favorite thing to say. So there's no way he's gonna say that he's more Weasley than the Weasleys. That was very off topic, but we're gonna bring it back. So the Malfoys switch from the dark side to the light side after Voldemort falls, and they have to find a way to get in with someone of power. Of course, the Minister of Magic is probably the most powerful person that they could get in with. Of course, maybe Dumbledore would be the most powerful person if he chose to be, but he would see right through the Malfoys, and he does, and everyone knows that. So they chose Fudge. Cornelius Fudge as their person that they're going to get in with and make a good name and give him a lot of gold and ask for favor. Even in the book, it said, Mr. Weasley said that the Malfoys give a lot of gold to a lot of different causes, and that allows them to call in different favors, postpone laws that might not want passed and stuff, which is only benefiting Voldemort all this time. And occasionally Lucius just chooses to do something for himself. But the Malfoys have come back, and they really are trying to, put on a different face. And it's a difficult thing to do, to change your ways. But they were lucky, because Cornelius Fudge couldn't see through them. He was too blinded by the fact that Dumbledore was trying to convince him that Voldemort was back. And he was dead set on saying, no. Voldemort is not back, and we even saw in the movie. I wish I knew who that actor's name was, but he was doing a great job. His face was like quivering with anger. He was like, "Knees." It was very strange. I'm sorry, but the point is, the Fudge is a very easy person to get in with if you play to his fears, and Dumbledore knows what his fears are, but that means that so do a lot of other people. And Fudge has a lot of fears, which is unfortunate, because then Lucius has a wide array of things to play into. And I think what he really harps on is the fact that Voldemort is not back, Dumbledore is crazy, and Harry is spouting a bunch of lies, and we see how much it affects him. In the 3rd book, he's all like, "Oh, Harry, we don't send people to Azkaban for blowing up their odds," but that was even more serious than the Patronus charm which he cast in the Order of the Phoenix. But yes, there were special circumstances with Sirius Black, but Chum was still not Fudge was still very chummy with Harry when they were talking in the prison of Azkaban. But 2 years later, the Order of the Phoenix, Harry cast a spell. Yes, it's bright. Yes, it's loud. Yes, it's fast. But there was good reason he was acting in self-defense. And Fudge is like, "You are going to jail, sir. I'm going to break your wand and you're never going to see the light of day again." So he was like almost murderous. He was ready to jump out of his seat and strangle Harry if it didn't go his way. And I also love the audiobook of the Order of the Phoenix because I think I like the Jim Dale version definitely the best. And Jim Dale does a great way of conveying the anger that Fudge is feeling for Harry and for himself. And even in the books, while you're reading it, you can sense how angry Fudge is that this law didn't get passed, that the lying boy Harry Potter didn't get thrown away and locked up in Azkaban. And that's a really difficult thing for Fudge to handle, because if he is convinced of one thing, it's very difficult to unconvince him right in the middle when he's the most convinced. If that makes any sense. But when Harry gets off, he goes right to Lucius Malfoy and starts complaining. Harry didn't hear, Harry got off. We have to do something. And I believe in the movie we overhear Lucius saying, like, "We have to act now," or he says something like that. And then Arthur and Harry are kind of, going up to them, and then they hear them talking, and then they stop. Lucius and Fudge stop right as they are going in, I think, to the courtroom, not out. So maybe it's out, I don't know. But the point is, going to or from the courtroom, they hear Lucius Malfoy and Fudge talking, and in the book, they also see them talking. So that's like a big point in the story, that Lucius Malfoy and Fudge are very close. And yes, I know that Fudge is still the Minister of Magic, and it would be very hard, Lucius would be very hard put to convince him of something that may not be a large point of interest to him, but Lucius Malfoy still has an in with the Minister all the same, and that is really all that he cared about. At number 5, we have Draco's strange relationship with his mother and father. Yes, we are talking about Lucius again, but he is a very, very important person in Draco's situation, and he has a large impact on Draco's life, and his mother is also a very large part of who Draco is, and is very important to the situation. So let's start off with his father. Now, we don't have to spend too much time on him because we know plenty about his relationship with Draco already, but it's a very professional relationship, if that makes sense. They don't really talk about like, oh, how was the game? Was it good? You making any new friends? That's just not how they talk. They talk about, like, how your grades, are they good? Okay, then get them better, Lucius doesn't focus on the warm, fuzzy stuff. All Lucius wants to do is talk about, get better grades, get into school, beat the Muggleborns, beat the Half-Bloods, be better than everyone else, be a top student, get points. It's just all about being the best, being number one, beating everyone, crushing the competition. That's everything that Lucius is about, because he knows that if Draco gets out of school and is a very skilled wizard, then Voldemort would be like, "Good job, Lucius, you raised him right." Of course, he started off wrong from the beginning, because by, encouraging Draco to crush the competition, he's already raising him wrong. It's still difficult to say how Lucius, is like thinking emotionally about Draco. And it's harsh to say, but I don't think he cares too much for Draco's well-being, yes, he would be unfortunate if Draco died. That would be sad, but he isn't thinking, instead of thinking about Draco's well-being when he gave him to Voldemort, he just thought about Lucius just thought about his own, his family's reputation. And he did care about Draco in the end, just because he recognized that Voldemort wasn't the big all-father. Voldemort was doing the things wrong. He was living life wrong. And Lucius recognized that his family was more important in that situation. And if they could get out, and when they saw that Voldemort was losing, when they could get out of that battle and they could live their life, then they would be happy. And they did. And Lucius, finally, that's the only time that I will ever think, positively of Lucius Malfoy. When he got his family out of the Battle of Hogwarts, and they just ran away. That's the only positive thing that he ever did. But I hate to say it now, but yes, he cared about his family and he got them out, but that might also have been because Lucius was, looking to escape from a losing situation. And he wanted to make sure that his life was better than the rest. And he wanted to make sure that if he was the only Death Eater who actually made it out, that he would be remembered for that. And he would be seen as, the person who switched from Voldemort in the end. And, given the title, I don't know, of Honorable War Survivor. But Lucius still is a very competent person, and yes, he's smart and everything, but he doesn't care very much about Draco on a very emotional level. So that's pretty much it. But now for his mother, this is really where it gets interesting, because Narcissa Malfoy is basically the polar opposite of her husband, Lucius. So Narcissa is the person that cares for Draco on an emotional level, and she's the one who really thinks that Draco has options outside of Voldemort. And Malfoy, Draco, he's really the person who has an emotional connection with his mother. Narcissa and Draco are, very, very tightly linked, and they have a very good relationship. But Draco with his father, they don't, and it's very professional, as I said before. But Narcissa was really there for Draco when he needed, someone to talk to, because with Draco's lifestyle, he had to be, a pureblood wizard who beat everyone in his class and was number one with his father. But with his mother, because his mother didn't care about, beating everyone. She just wanted him to do well and do what was right for him. And Narcissa was the person that Draco was really, kind of fighting for, if that makes sense. And I think that's why they made it out, because the light side will always win if they have something to fight for, because Voldemort just was fighting for powers, fighting for power's sake, not because he had any goal in mind. And you could say that he wanted to rid the world of muggles and everything, but at that point, it was really about, becoming immortal, never dying, and, doing everything like that. So Voldemort didn't have something to fight for. But the fact is that Dumbledore and Lucius and Narcissa and Draco in the end finally did. And that's why they made it out. And that's why Narcissa and Lucius had such a good relationship, because they could support each other. And they could continue to be, this happy family, because they themselves were happy with each other. And Lucius was not a part of that just because he couldn't connect with people on an emotionally secure level. He wasn't, strong enough to admit to himself that he could open up and he could, join he could be with other people on an emotional level, not just on business or for personal gain. Lucius wasn't strong enough to open himself up to the world, and that's unfortunate, because he probably could have made it out with Voldemort much sooner if he did. So that's the episode. That was a lot. That was a very large load of stuff, and like plot holes, there's just so much more. I only got through about half of what I have, and I have to say, I was so looking forward to recording the last talking point I have, but unfortunately, I will not be able to today. Episode is just way too long right now, and I don't want to extend it further and just have so much time in this episode. As much as I would love to, I do have other episodes to make, so unfortunately, I will have to end this episode here, but the good side is I didn't finish this episode, but I do have that other half of this episode to record. I will add some more stuff to it, and I will get back to you, because this is a really amazing episode that I was looking forward to making. So you will have breakdown Lucius Malfoy. I always say Lucius Malfoy. Breakdown Draco Malfoy coming at you. Couple weeks, maybe. It might have to wait until October, because I do have a couple other things planned, but nonetheless, I'm still very excited, because it's gonna be a very, very fun episode, and something that I think is really revealing, that Draco might not even know himself. So that's the episode. I would love to hear what you have to say, and I would like to know, what do you think Lucius Malfoy could have done to connect better with Draco. And at this moment, I do mean Lucius, the father of Draco. What do you think Lucius Malfoy could have done to better connect with Draco and Narcissa and just people in general? Please send me an email, thepotterdiscussion@gmail.com. That is thepotterdiscussion@gmail.com. What could Lucius have done to connect with people on an emotional level? And I would also appreciate a review on Apple Podcasts or Podchaser if you are on those apps. And also, actually, I'm just realizing that on Overcast, the app, I know a good chunk of my listeners are on Overcast, if you could tap that star, actually. I've never accessed that. I've never realized that before, but there's a star on the episode. If you tap it, the blue bar comes down, and then you tap the star. You can do that. I would appreciate that because it helps other listeners find the show as well. So that would be very helpful, actually. It's a pretty easy thing to do, just like reviewing. But as always, just tap those 5 stars. Even write a review, because that would help me out more than you can ever know, and it helps other listeners find the show, as I always say. But yeah, the star in Overcast, this is an experiment. If you could do that, that'd be awesome. Thank you so much. As always, use information to your advantage, and I will see you later.
This was the Potter Discussion.